A very good evening to our viewers. Thank you for joining us tonight on the evening review. My name is Tewenjo Bella. Tonight on the platform, we are welcoming back Statistician General Alex Shimuafeni, who by virtue of that position is also the head of the Namibia Statistics Agency, who last week announced that the 2025-2026 Namibia Household Income and Expenditure Survey will kick off very soon. Alex is here to fill us in on that. Thank you very much, Statistician General, for making time. It's always a pleasure having you on the platform. Maybe the first question, do you have money this time around?
Thank you, Theo.
Unlike census.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you for having me on the program.
Yeah.
The answer is emphatically yes.
Okay.
Despite some newspaper articles, we do have the money for the project.
Okay.
For the census, we also, at the end of the day, managed to get the funds to do the census, the full census. Unlike some countries, they run out of funds and then maybe they have to go back to Treasury to get the funds. There was an announcement also in the previous budget where the Minister of Finance also gave us the funds to do the planning. And we're also very much in the planning phase of the Namibia Household Income and Expenditure Survey. So, yes,
Okay.
there are funds.
Wonderful. So, tell us about the exercise itself then. It happens how many times, after how many years, and is it now time to do the next one?
Yes, it's happening every 5 years.
Okay.
And the last one was supposed to happen in 2020 and 2021. But we all know because of COVID, and it was also the time that we were supposed to do the census in 2021. We couldn't do it, but now it's ready to kick off in 2025, 2026.
Okay.
Yes, this is the fifth household income and expenditure survey as well. And then the second one to be done by the Namibia Statistics Agency. Previously, it was done by the Central Statistics Bureau under the National Planning Commission.
Yeah. How big an exercise is it compared to census, for example, in terms of the number of people that you may be required to recruit, I suppose sometimes logistical things like vehicles and all that, compared to census? How big is it?
Yeah, percentage-wise, you will say that it's about between 10 to 15% of the census.
Okay.
Because the census is a very huge exercise. And then we'll look at, need to get the numbers correct, but it will also could be around 1,000 or so enumerators. As I said, we are still in the final stages. That's why we're starting off with the pilot pilot survey to look at, to finalize all those figures that we are talking about. Yeah, that's a magnitude of the survey compared to the census.
Yeah. Give us some sort of details of what actually it entails. What is this exercise?
Yeah. The name is Namibia Household Income and Expenditure Survey, or in short, NHIES. And from the name itself, other countries even call it a household budget survey. It's really looking at what are the incomes of the households and individuals, what are their incomes per month and then per year, and then also how do they use those income, the expenditure thereof, and then the spending patterns, consumption, what they use the money for. This is really what the survey is all about. And now, why do we collect those data? What is it used for? First of all, we want to look at the poverty pattern in the country, per household and per individual. And then we also look at the spending patterns, like I said. And more importantly, also, we talk about Namibia being a very high unequal country. We are going to work out also the inequality amongst the households and individuals. And that measure is called the Gini coefficient. We are going to calculate it out of that. Yeah, and then, like I said, the poverty, we are going to look at the poverty levels, the three types of poverty, the food poverty line, the middle poverty line, and then the upper poverty line. So that is really what the survey is all about. And maybe just to, while we are at it now, also to say, we in our household sometimes we don't really follow or track what we are spending on. We know how much you are getting, what are your income, but maybe you might wonder, where did the money all go to? So the survey will also help you to start tracking in terms of what are your expenditures per month and then per year.
And once that is established, what then? The question is, in journalism school, they taught us always to pose the question, so what?
Yes.
So what will be then the next step? What do we do with that information as a country?
Yes. First of all, we have had some interventions, or the socio-economic interventions. For example, the pension grant that has been increasing. You want to see what was the impact of those. You also want to see the poverty, how many people have moved out of poverty. That's why we look at the poverty lines. And then you also want to look at you also want to look at the income levels, whether they have increased as well. Now, those are answering the question, so what is the survey bringing us? One of the interesting things also is that if you look at the inequality, it has been, as a measure between 0 and 1, it has been coming down since independence from 0.6 to 0.58 to 0.6. Sorry, 0.60 to 0.58 to 0.56. But it's not low enough. It can also still increase. It can still decrease. We also want to see how it has decreased. And then there is also that measure is also a measure that the World Bank uses to say how to classify countries. Like currently we are classified as a upper middle income country. So we lose out on grants and some donations because of that. And that's another discussion, because according to me, from a statistical term also, is that if you have a person who's got a very much astronomical higher income than the rest of the group, that person is actually an outlier, should not be part of the equation. Yeah, but that is what the reality is. We have more people who have maybe lower income, but there are very, very few who have a very high income, and that is now pushing the graph up to that high inequality as well. Yeah, so those are the importance of the survey that we are looking at.
Yeah. It's very good that you raised the issue of Namibia being classified as a upper middle income country, because I know that the late president, but in particular, fought against that classification, against that very point that you mentioned, that in the international market, you are perceived to be well off. Your interest rates on your borrowings and all these things are higher because you are perceived as a country that can afford to pay back. While the truth is that you have this super rich small pool whose wealth is being distributed theoretically to all of us, including the guys who sleep under the bridge, and then they are perceived to have good income, when the per capita income, when it's actually not correct. So what can you tell us about the past exercise? What are some of the themes that emerged out of the last exercise that you remember, perhaps as a result of that exercise?
Yeah, with the last survey, household income and expenditure survey, one of the things is that the inequality has been coming down, but not as rapid as it's supposed to be, which is an improvement, and it has been a downward trend since the first survey. Also, the poverty, number of people in the poverty group have also been coming down, but maybe not enough. because it still need to further come down. And then maybe just to speak on the matter of the late president who spoke about the that matter of the classification of the country. I have been, wherever I'm going, especially when we sit with the World Bank colleagues, I always remind them of that formula. And I know even the president has been speaking about the formula to say, you take the GDP of a country, you divide it with a small population of Namibia, then we will be classified as a upper middle income. First of all, with the census now that we have moved from 2.1 million to 3 million, there could be a slight of a difference, but not big enough, because it's only moving from 2.1 million to 3 million. But to come back from the previous survey, like I said, those two variables, the inequality and the poverty, has come down. But now we need to look at the upcoming survey now. What will the results be?
Absolutely. There are many things that NSA does in that regard, in terms of the inflationary impact on people, where we stand in terms of unemployment and stuff like that, the economic growth, what trajectory are we on? Do you think, how important are those numbers? Because sometimes they are not very flattering, especially in an election year. People would say they wish Alex Shimuafeni had just held on to those numbers for a little while until after November. But in the bigger picture, why is it important to have statistics in the country?
Maybe just to start off there, we as statistics officers in the world, statistics officers in the world, we are apolitical. We cannot link statistics and politics or elections and so on. But we produce statistics really for planning purposes. You can go out and say that the statistics look good, but if it's not serving the purpose of which is to plan economic planning, as well as to have evidence-based decision making, as well as to formulate policies based on statistics. That's really what statistics is all about. And we also operate very independently. We cannot be forced or pressed to release statistics or to hold on to statistics. We release them as they are ready. And we also, when we release, we also need to make sure that we have the full attention to get the people to listen to the statistics, because imagine going to release statistics before a soccer match, for example. The attention, people do not go to the stadium to listen to statistics. They're there to watch their football. Yeah, so we really, I'm always telling my colleagues we don't produce statistics for ourselves. We produce it for the users, for all types of users, and for that purposes also of planning, like I've said, planning and decision making and policy formulation.
Absolutely. We go for a very short break and then return with Alex Shimuafeni. The conversation continues on the evening review. We are talking about the 2025-2026 Namibia Household Income and Expenditure Survey that the Namibia Statistics Agency is going to embark upon soon. Now, Alex, what are the phases of an exercise like that?
Yes.
And what are the timelines?
Yes. With any statistical collection project, whether it's a survey, whether it's a census, you need to start off with a pilot survey. And the reason for that is really you want to perfect your instruments of collecting data. The question is, you want to perfect them to make sure that people understand the questions. You want to make sure that you have planned correctly in terms of how long does one interview takes in a household. So we are going to kick off with a pilot survey which is starting from the 30th of September up to the 20th of October. We are going to employ about 24 enumerators or interviewers, and because we are going to go into 8 regions only that were randomly selected, not to all the regions. And also, since it's a survey, we are not going to go into all the households like we did with the census. So those 8 regions, just for the public to note, is the Erongo region, the Hardap region, Kavango West region, Kunene, Komas, Omaheke, Omusati, and Zambezi region. And also within those regions, we are not going to go into each and every constituency, and neither will we go to each and every household. There are some of the streets that were selected that we normally publish. They are also on our website. Those are the ones that we are going to go into. Now, once the pilot is completed, then we go to the actual survey now from the 17th of March 2025 up to 17th of March 2026. Okay. It's a 12-month period. And if you ask me why 12 months, we know that with our spending patterns, they are not the same. They differ with the seasonalities.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, we need to capture those seasonalities as we are going, because in winter you spend on certain things, and summer you spend on certain things. And when it's school holidays also you spend on certain things. So that is really what the survey will entail. And just to go deeper into it also, when you look at the consumption, we will even have measuring cups that will ask people to measure how much you use maybe of cooking oil or things that you have bought. We are going to have also daily record books that people are going to join to complete within 14 days, and those are really the details of the survey.
So this survey is happening at a time when calls for things like universal basic income grant are also intensifying. What would an exercise like that? What impact would an exercise like that have on calls, on those kind of calls? Do you think, for example, that if the result come out in a manner that seem to suggest that we have a lot of problems in those households, that it will even intensify more these calls? We read not so long ago in the news about the situation of malnutrition. Some children really dying, Maheke and other places in the country. How important is it in that regard?
Yes. Statistical information will give you insight in some of these things. For example, one of the things that will come out also from the survey is that if you want to talk about food security, issues of malnutrition, you will also be able to pick them up, were there any of those, and where exactly you are talking about. So those are the things that you can get. And also, in addition, when we talk about income grant, we are talking about what is it that people spend on, and then you can gauge and say the figures that have been thrown around, are they sufficient?
Yeah.
Maybe you will also have to look at the different income groups. So when we talk about our statistics is to help for policy formulation, is really for things like that, to say that what is the survey telling us compared to what the calls are or the suggestions that are there in terms of things like the income basic grants. So that's where statistics come in.
Yeah. There's also an exercise, I don't know whether it's this one or there's a different one again, the one that sort of determines the level of unemployment in the country. Is it this one or?
No. The level of unemployment is the labor force survey, which is different.
Yeah, that's the one I was. But that one is also under you.
That's also under the Namibia Statistics Agency. It used to be, those years, it used to be under the Ministry of Labor, but now it's done by the NSA.
Yeah, but even this one will give you some strong insights. I'm sure in the questionnaire there will be some boxes that will speak to that level? Because in order to determine the household income, there ought to be maybe some element of how many people are employed in the house and stuff like that.
Yes, it will give you an indication because when you get an income, it's most likely from an employment, unless you get a grant or a very high monthly pocket money or so. Yeah, but it will give you an indication. And then also, when we are going to measure the level of poverty as well, so there's an interlink with those two.
Yeah, wonderful. So once that is done, those 12 months are done. I know that for census you had more post-mortem exercises that followed. Is this but in this case you have some sort of pre-exercise processes that you just, the pre-survey thing that you talked about. So for this specific one, does it then end there? Once the 12 months are done, you tabulate everything and you announce, or do you still have other subsequent processes like census?
Yeah, it's a very good question. After the survey, the subsequent activities of such as post-mortem, they also continue, because this one is quite different from the census, because census was a very huge exercise, and it was a very logistics-based project also, and timelines were also very strict, and then we were dealing with all sorts of matters as well, because of the magnitude also of the enumerators. But for the specific survey now, the household income and expenditure survey, the good thing out of this also is we are now going to rebase also our national accounts to calculate the GDP based on rebased national accounts. Also, we're talking about the consumer price index. The basket is also going to change, the basket of food that the people, for example, are buying. We need now to base it on this survey to say, what is it that the people are buying? Maybe people became more health conscious. They don't buy certain products more, they buy more the other one. And we know that for the consumer price index, we talk about weights to say, if we have a budget of, let's say, $1,000, how much of that do you use for this product and that product? This is where we calculate our weights for the consumer price index. So we are looking forward to see how those spending patterns are going to change. And those are the things that will follow after the survey.
Yeah. I have just two more questions for you, Alex. One is, how much would an exercise like this require financially?
You caught me off guard now. And I've also learned to say, when you throw out figures there, people can also take it out of that. Like I said, this exercise is between 10 to 15% of the census. So it's not that big of the magnitude, because it's a sample that we are going to pick. It's a sample that is representing the country. And we are talking in the vicinity of around 100 million, just under correction also. I don't know. Like, one of the things that is going to determine the final figure is also the outcome of the pilot. Yeah, we have an overall estimate, but the outcome of the pilot will also give us a good indication on that one.
Yeah. The final question is then about when you have a huge exercise like that, and for 12 months, how does it impact your workload as an agency, especially since you have also monthly reports on different things that you do, monthly researches and other things? How will you balance those situations?
Yeah. First of all, different surveys are done by different departments. For example, now we have the Department of Social and Demographic Statistics. those department was also quite heavily involved in the census. So we couldn't do this also during the census. Also, it's going to be confusing if you have two teams out there, one for the census, one for the household income and expenditure survey. Now, the main or the most monthly reports are produced by the Economic Statistics Department, which is a bit different from that. But even though they have the year after next year, we are going to have still in next year, this financial year, we are going to have the census for agriculture, which is done by the Department of Economic Statistics. But yeah, now when you have two projects taking place, you need to divide yourself into teams, in manageable teams also. And obviously we have the enumerators and team supervisors that are also coming in. That's why we invest in training them well, enough time so that they can be, when they go in the field, although they still have support with head office, they are very much confident to be taking up the process. And then we also have supervisors that are coming from the office that are also supervising those supervisors, the field supervisors.
Absolutely. No, thank you, SG, for coming through.
Thank you.
We appreciate your time. So that's Alex Shimuafeni. He's the Statistician General of Namibia, talking about the upcoming household income and expenditure survey that they're going to roll out in a very short period of time to determine what is happening in our households, what needs to be done to intervene where necessary. Thank you for watching.